Welcome to the October Cataloging Special Interest Group, everyone. I don't have anything specific to talk about, but I did find a really neat resource that I just happened to stumble across that I want to share with everybody. And it's so cool that I'm going to share it this month and I'm going to share it next month. I might just keep sharing. I'm putting a link in the chat. It's and I'm going to go read it so I don't muff it up. Let's see, oh wait, let me find it. Here we go. The Association for Library Collections and Technical Services Continuing Education YouTube channel, ALCTSCE. And we had been talking specifically last month about cataloging maps and other cartographic resources. And they have a really neat video that I'm going to put a link to in the chat here that I started watching as an absolutely wonderful refresher. It's entitled 2019-1002. They have all their videos organized by date, so it's from 2019. Special Collections Cataloging Maps. A presentation by Carolyn Hansen, independent librarian and historian, and it's fantastic. I think it would be a great introduction to anyone cataloging maps, charts, any cartographic resources, even atlases. Even though the title says special collections, it has it's a great walkthrough on cataloging those materials. And I'd say be prepared if you don't have access to tools like Cataloger's Desktop, RDA, that sort of thing. Be prepared to make some screenshots, really helpful things that she shares, including a nice slide with images of these are hatchers and soundings and all sorts of neat things. So totally check it out. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring to the group this month?
Well, the day after the conference, my wife went in for hip replacement surgery, which I think is okay to say, even if we're being recorded. So I haven't been doing much other than service animal.
I hope she's recovering well and healing.
Oh, yes. And then our cat has a bad ear infection. So I've been giving the cat medications, which, let's see.
Sometimes that's combat.
Yeah, I think that one's new.
Yeah, they're just not understanding when we're using blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm known in the koha archives as service animal and cat wrangler. Okay. Oh, well.
You're still known as that.
Among your many talents.
Okay. I think I'll mute myself because I may doze off.
It's okay. You can catch up on the recording later.
I have something I can bring forward. I mentioned this on Thursday at koha-US about struggling with the mark modification template and trying to get it to actually work. So if y'all are okay, I'd like to just share my screen and you can see what I'm seeing.
Yes, please.
Sure. Okay. Let me do this. Screen one. Yes. Share. All right. Can you see now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. My catalog record here.
Yes. Comey can't communicate.
Yes. So let me jump over really quick to my mark modification templates here. I just downloaded this batch of records from OCLC, a bunch of Comey can't communicate, a bunch of drifting dragons. Let me go to my tools, mark modification templates. And then, so I had set up this graphic novels template. And what I did was I basically copied the nonfiction template. But so in the graphic novels template, so we don't use fast, we don't use the Bizach or however you pronounce it. And Sears. So we don't use any of these. So this is what I had pulled in. And initially the I don't know if the Bizach one did, but the fast ones, initially they had this regex m/fast. And that wasn't working. So that, well, maybe if I remove the regex, which I don't really understand a whole lot about regular expressions, well, almost nothing about regular expressions, to be honest. But so I removed it, kind of toggled it on, toggled it off, and it didn't really seem to do anything. But so I'll just update that. But so then if we look at, so it's not just the, these ones, but so I've also done one down at the bottom of line 24. We don't use the juvenile fiction subheading, subfield V. We just use fiction. So I wanted to replace that. And so now if we look at this Comey Can't Communicate that I just downloaded using that template, in the 650s, we have all our juvenile fiction. We have some fasts in here. So I'm not really sure if there's something else that there's some step that I'm missing, or if the issue is with the template actions themselves. I don't know, any thoughts? I can stop sharing now. Unless you want me to share again, I can.
I am not seeing any reason why that shouldn't work.
So what part of it is not working? All of it, or?
Oh, here, let me share again. So, oops, there we are. There's that. So say like this, delete field 650 if 650 subfield 2 matches fast, right? Line 12.
Right.
So if we go in here, oops, sorry, let me do the 655 instead. So delete field 655 if 655 subfield 2. Oh, I have this. I don't know why that's in there. That's weird. Let's remove that.
And I haven't seen that stray subfield delimiter on all of them.
That's really weird because I don't have. It's just delete every field 655. I don't have any. I don't have any other choices to, remove this box, which I think is what's populating that, making that $sign.
Is there a space in that box? And maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. Is there any yeah, I think there's a space in that box.
No, there's not.
I think there was.
Oh, okay. Let me update it then. Maybe that's, where's that? So there. Oh, so that has changed. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I would. That would be my concern. Is there any data at all in that box? Does it just look? Does it look blank, or is there actually a space in there?
Right. Okay. Well. Okay. Thanks. That's very helpful. But unfortunately, there are. This is not. Let me try one of these drifting dragons ones here and see if maybe. Because I've had that same issue with Sears headings in other records, but there's no, that is not the case. There's no dollars, no mystery $sign in there. So, but at any rate, it's thank you for helping me to see that. That's very useful. Let me try drifting dragons here and just see. Sorry, I came from another meeting, and so I didn't have time to actually get all my culprits in a line.
It's fine.
Quite all right.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's nothing in there. If I find other things, then maybe I'll submit them to the listserv, and and then if people have other suggestions, then
my suggestion would be give up on this and use Mark Edit.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
I think you can do pretty much everything in Mark Edit that you're trying to do here.
yeah. Oh, so to just import them into Mark Edit rather than
Export
direct-
to Mark, import the Mark files.
So that's the big advantage of the Mark modification templates, though, is if you're doing a bunch of staged records, you can
Yeah.
say, bring them in, put them
Yeah.
in here, and then apply this modification template. And so then you don't have to import them and then put them out into Mark Edit and bring them back in.
Yeah,
And
well,
if there's some reason why it's not working that might reveal a bug, that's helpful to the whole community too.
sure. And I mean, it's not something that I deal with, or let me rephrase that. It's not something that takes so much time to deal with manually. I mean, I just delete those fields. I just think, well, shouldn't this be working properly so I don't have to do that extra step? So it's a little thing, but it's, I guess it piles up after a while.
It does
It's
pile up,
the-
and it's
it's-
something
it's
that
the-
many of us are doing.
Yeah.
I do that. I'm manually deleting, and I would like not to.
It's the itch I just can't quite reach to scratch. Yeah. Well, thank
Please
you.
pursue it for us.
Yeah, thanks for your help and suggestions.
And do submit it to the listserv because
Oh, but so-
people who can't make the meetings might have ideas that we
Right,
don't have.
right. Oh, so can we look at what do you call it? Hang on a second. Let me share one more time here.
Sure.
The juvenile fiction replaced with fiction. I'm not sure because I just did that one the other day because I got really tired of having to, I get really tired of having to change juvenile fiction to fiction, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that looks horrible.
Yeah, it's a nuisance. But so I have this, so line 24, update existing or add new, I'll go to edit. 650 subfield V with value fiction. So that's the new one I want to add. If the existing field 650 subfield V matches juvenile fiction. And I'm not sure.
I think it's
Yeah.
backwards. You want to match juvenile fiction, right?
Oh,
And then,
is it?
right, because the top line is saying update or add the field with the value of juvenile fiction, and then you want to replace that with fiction, right?
Well, no, because in my line 17, which does work very well, I have, so in the top line, this is the line that I want to add. Update existing or add new 942 subfield C with value comics if the existing field 942C doesn't exist.
Okay, I get it.
So yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be consistent.
I think it's designed reversed from the way one might usually think about it, because I think about it too. I also think about it in that way. It's like if the system finds this, then please do that. But the way the menu has it, it's please do this if this condition's met.
Right. It would reverse to it would be update something something, or like if something something then it would be be an if then, but it's the way it's set up is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's set up for be then if.
Is there any
Yeah,
chance
right.
you've got a loose space after juvenile fiction?
No, nor after fiction.
That would have been too easy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there'd be lightning striking twice.
Yeah, the logic seems sound to me. I don't know why it's not working.
Okay. Well, maybe
one reason I can think of that the logic might not work is if juvenile fiction is in any way different, because this is an exact match. It's saying if there has to be an exact match
right
for juvenile fiction. So if there's a space in there
Do
or
I
a
need to-
period at the end
Period.
of the space, so that's where the two ways to deal with that would be to either create you could do another line there that says if well, actually, I don't know if you can do
I
another
can't,
line
I
there.
can't do another line.
It shouldn't
But
be
But you can,
necessary.
but you can do
because-
another action.
No,
you
it
can
shouldn't
create
be
another
necessary,
action.
Nice,
'cause
nice. Yep.
subfield V is always the last subdivision, so
Yep,
subfield
yep.
V should always bear the full stop at the end.
Right.
So
thank you,
this is
thank
where learning regex though would be helpful, because if you could learn enough regex to do, if juvenile fiction is a part of that subfield V, then if the record you're importing doesn't have the period, does have the period, it has an extra space, it has a misspelling, you know, if you could build a regex that says where anytime that the 650 subfield V matches regex and then JUV, FIC, and any other characters in there, that way you would only have one line. You would only need the one line, but you would need to learn enough regex to do
Right.
that.
Well,
And I'm good at a lot of things, but not regex.
Oh, okay. Well, cause my question was going to be, can you recommend any sources for learning it?
Are you guys are a Bywater customer? You're at Round Rock.
Yeah.
Ask Andrew for help at Bywater. Andrew, they had something going on at Bywater where they needed a regex expert, and so they made Andrew take a class in regex. So
Oh boy. Okay.
so
Okay.
he's had like official, honest to God schooling on the subject.
Wow. All right. Yeah.
So
I'll
he'd
ask
probably
him.
be a good person to ask for what's a good resource, and how can I learn this, and can you help me do this? So.
And please share with us too, for folks who are not supported by Bywater. I'm gonna put a link in the chat. I had some exposure through taking workshops, free workshops with library carpentry, and I'm going to brush up again now that so many parts of Koha are incorporating regex.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Mark Edit uses regex a lot too, and I have no idea of how to do that.
So I have a question. If we're doing a template to change like the 260 fields to 264, it would just be like copy the 260 field to 264 if 260 exists. So to get rid of that 260, I would have to do a new action to delete the 260.
You would need well, my first reaction is why, because 260s are perfectly valid in 8CR2 records. But then if you decide, yes, you want to do it, you do need to, you can't have a 260 field and a 264 field. And also you're going to have to check your indicators also, because the indicators have vastly different meaning.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I put a link to a bug in the chat because it sort of relates to the mark modification templates, in that this one is, it'd be nice to be able to use a mark modification template and apply it when you're doing a single Z39 record. So instead of the batch, we're bringing records in via Z39, and we don't want all those different things that Jason just talked about, but there's no way to apply a mark modification template at that point. Now, I've been talking to Catalyst, and I think it's the lady, its name, I think her name is Anne from Wheelers, that's been, okay.
Yeah,
So
Anne is at Wheelers, and she is a whiz with modification
apparently
templates.
Catalyst did some work for them regarding that. And I'm trying to talk to them about, is this something we can, move forward on? Because I think it would benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, that would be great. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring to the group?
Yes, I had a long list, but I was I had to go to Wisconsin to bring home another load of books last week and didn't have time to set it up. Next month for sure.
We'll be here next month. I'm looking forward to a feature coming in a future upgrade. We're on, I believe, 20.05, but there's going to be one of the Bywater announcements, and they do a page on the upgrades. I should try to find that, put it in the chat. Is the ability to set up a default order of subfields in the MARC frameworks so that they'd actually be in the correct order, not alphabetical order.
Sounds fun, but I'd have to relearn.
Yeah, that's, excuse me. Maybe that would solve my current problem, which is with some Rittenhouse R2 books, you get 3 uses and then you can't use it anymore. So I put in 856Z saying that. Except if it goes above the if it's above, that line is above the 856U, you get the message and then the link. And I'd really like to have the link and then the message. But would that do it?
Yes, you
Okay.
could change your MARC modification or change your MARC framework so that your subfield Z in the 856 is always first. Like, for example, we use a subfield 3 or a subfield I to indicate the location of the link, the 856 link, like this is at the Internet Archive, this is the Library of Congress. So I'm going to change our 856 field in our MARC framework to always have the subfield 3 and I first before the subfield A.
Okay.
I'd be happy if I could just delete the subfields from the editor view that I'm not using.
I think you can. I think you can suppress them from view in the staff client.
Yeah, no, won't do it. Unless you want me to share screen and let you walk me through it. Seems a waste of our time, though.
Is it a field that you need, but you just don't want to look at, or do you just
No,
want to get rid of it?
I want to block the fields that I'm not using at all.
Let me talk amongst yourselves. Let me.
So, hey, Bruce, can you please restate what the issue is? I gapped out for a moment.
But let me pull that up and show you.
Sure.
One of these. Okay.
While everybody else is doing their thing and getting stuff ready, Jason, let me put this in the chat box. That report will identify places in the MARC modification tool where there's a space.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Ooh.
Where there's a space in the action.
The action.
Update or existing in the from field.
Nice.
For the action, for the first part of the action. So it'll show you where where you're telling it to look for a space instead of looking for a blank.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, George.
Sure.
I'm ready to give a show here if you're ready.
Yep.
Okay, can you see that?
Not yet.
Oh dear. How does one share screens? Other than click on that.
There's a green share screen button at the bottom of the, like down by the chat and record and everything.
And it disappears after a few seconds.
Yeah, you got to hover down there along the bottom of the Zoom screen.
I think we may have crashed Bruce.
Uh-oh.
He's not moving.
No,
Yeah, he looks frozen. You can give him a minute to come back.
He's just blacked out on my screen.
I'm scrolling through the manual looking for the information. Yeah, poor Bruce. Hopefully he'll come back.
Heather, what can you restate in at all what it was that the issue was?
I think he was either looking for a way in the editor he used, the bibliographic editor he used, and I didn't hear yet whether he's using the basic editor or the advanced bibliographic editor to not see a particular marked subfield. Here he comes back. Oh, Barbara's found that report useful already.
One thing I would say is it might be
Hey,
looking
Bruce.
for a space on purpose. You know, that might be the purpose of that function, is to find the things where there's just a space as opposed to a blank. But if you don't realize it's a space and you're thinking it's blank, that could be a problem.
welcome back, Bruce.
Thanks. I hit share screen and you all froze. Which I thought
Oh
I might-
no,
I'm going to try again if I may.
please.
And if I disappear, that's why. Okay, I click on share screen and nothing's happening.
Hmm. Oh, there may be, when you click on share screen, there should be something. Do you have multiple tabs or windows or anything open?
Yep.
There should be something else that pops up that where you have to choose which screen or which tab you want to share.
Yeah, I'm not getting that.
Oh, okay, that's not good. That's the extent of my troubleshooting knowledge. Oh, okay, yeah, that's weird.
Well, I think he's gone again.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Well, I'm going to put this section of the manual for the 20.05 manual in the chat. That's where it describes the different options in editing the framework to say whether a subfield in a marked field will display within a cataloging editor.
hmm.
And you can also select to have it hidden when the field is collapsed, but displayed if the field label is clicked and expanded.
For a second there, I had two Bruces.
Yeah,
Now I see just one, and he's moving again, though.
oh, almost got a screenshot of it. Bruce, you're using Linux, right?
Right.
That may have something to do with it, because I tried using Linux for Zoom for something else, and a few weird little things happened.
Well, I don't know if you were here to see it, Bruce, but I found the section in the 20.05 manual that explains how to control the visibility of subfields
Yeah.
in the MARC frameworks.
And I can do that for a lot of things, but it won't do it for all of the subfields for the item record.
Oh, the item record. Yeah, that's different.
That's what I figured.
So you're trying to, oh, sorry, I am here. You're trying to hide specific fields on the item record entry.
Right, because there's a bunch like withdrawn that I just don't use, and it makes the page longer.
Yes.
If I can drop enough of them, I can stop scrolling.
I know that's possible because I added one. There's some place where you can go to.
There are-
this one and this one and this one.
Yeah, it's in the, you have to go to the 952 in the framework.
Yep, that's where I'm working on it.
And one of the issues is like if you have two different frameworks and you make them, if you make like the 952 damaged field invisible in the framework, invisible in one framework, then if you're editing a record that uses that framework, it shouldn't appear, but it will still appear in the batch editors because the batch editors always assume that you're using the default framework. So I don't know if that might be your issue.
That explains a few things.
Yeah, the default, when you do the batch editing, it always assumes that you're using the default framework. And so it loads the fields that are visible
That's why I can't,
in the default.
that explains why I can't do a batch edit on my subfield K that I shanghaied for a non-standard purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
got to be the default framework, and back up your framework before you mess
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, good. I'll fix that.
And I was just going to say, if you want to brute force it with jQuery, that's something that I've done on my site. So there's a little write-up on how I've done some modifications to the item entry form to clean it up and hide some things and rearrange some things.
That's something I've done too, is I've got all of ours rearranged on the edit item page. And I can actually show that if anybody wants to see it.
Oh, yes, please.
Let me, hopefully I won't freeze if we do this. So you guys see Koha, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've got, you know, all of the, instead of being in, normally they sort like in order of the, I think they sort in the order of the subfield code, but you know, we wanted all the things about finding the item up here, all the acquisition data in one block, and all the status data and all the notes. So this is just some jQuery I wrote that puts those all in those blocks. And at one point,
pretty.
At one point, I had them all set so that they could be collapsed and expanded, but that was hard to maintain because things kept changing through upgrades. So I don't have them set to collapse anymore. But this way, they're in the order that people actually enter the data instead of in alphabetical order.
That's incredible. Is that jQuery available?
I don't know, but I can make it available. I can make a note of it. Make this available.
Why are some things required?
That's awesome.
That's because they didn't used to be required in the framework, and I wanted to fool people into thinking they were required, and so I wrote some jQuery that made them look like they were required, and then eventually I actually did make them required. And so, and that's because it took me a while to get all the frameworks updated. So I just haven't removed the jQuery that puts the second required there.
Historical artifact, understood.
What I'll do is I made a note that I should add this to the jQuery wiki, and that Christopher and I should do a video about it for some Thursday, so I can walk through all the steps of what it does.
Yes, please.
So George, you also use jQuery then to change, like if you go back to that screen, you use jQuery. I think you talked a little bit about this in your, was it very basic jQuery that at koha-US, where you change like your Y item type, would that be like collection code? You can change that. Did you use that to change things around with that? Oh no, there's collection. Oh, there's collection code there also.
Yeah, I put them all. This is the, you know, when one of our member libraries goes to sit down to add an item, this is kind of the order that they add things in, because, you know, the home library on top, we use the shelving location primarily to determine if it's adult, children's, or young adult system wide. And so you know, this is kind of how to find a book in our system is by the library, shelving location, item type, collection code, and call number, what you need to zero in on it on the shelf. And so we put them in that order. And then I grouped all of the acquisition stuff together because it used to be they'd be in like 5 different places. But this way it just makes a lot more sense for the catalogers when they're adding items to kind of put the things in the order that they actually go in.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing.
And I think what Jason's got going on is pretty similar in his system.
Yeah, it's it's just a little different formatting, but it's basically the same. And then and the order is different for us. But the the other thing I did on ours is like we use shelving locations and collection codes a little differently. So we can generally associate a shelving location with the collection code. So whenever someone picks a shelving location, it's going to pre-populate the collection code. So like if they pick adult fiction, then it picks adult books in the collection code. So that's helped us prevent data entry errors.
I think that would be a great topic for a Thursday video as well.
That is. Jason, you get to do a second guest appearance possibly. I'm going to make a note of that.
Thanks, Heather.
Anytime.
Yeah. We're our Round Rock Public Library, we're a new building is being built right across the street from me. And so that's something that we're going to be having a lot of discussions of tech services with other departments about, you know, new shelving locations, you know, in Koha, also in Aspen for the new building. And I mean, I know some libraries don't use shelving locations at all. It's just all in collection code. And so it'd be curious to, I mean, not today, but in the future, I'll probably be picking people's brains about, you know, kind of what the pros and cons of your different approaches are in that regard. I mean, obviously, you know, the fewer fields we have to populate when we're cataloging item records, the better in a certain sense for us. But, you know, in terms of the overall user experience, you know, how that's affected. So I'll probably be asking about that in the future.
Well, actually, I was going to say we're the opposite. We use shelving location, but excuse me, we have our collection codes completely suppressed because we use those for staff use only for different collections. But a lot of libraries use them in a lot of different ways. And I think getting information out there about the possibilities is really great.
When I was setting up Koha 8 years ago, I was doing it myself. I didn't know what I was doing. So I use item types and collection codes and shelving location. That's the same thing. Works for us, but we've got a really small library.
Yeah, ours too. And we could probably get away with just using collection codes for things, you know, adult mystery, you know, whatever, you know, second floor. But then we get into situations like, say, if we want to have a display, right, like a theme display or something, pull books from one collection to put somewhere else, you know, to have like a temporary code that you can use is really nice versus the permanent. So I don't know, we'll see.
We use our, let me take a look because we use one of the other things for items on display or items being scanned and digitized. We actually use the damaged status. I set, you know, there's damaged, which means it's in repair, but then I added a value for on exhibit. It works pretty well.
Oh, that's very clever. I like it.
And Jason, so were you using shelving locations? I kind of faded out for a moment. Because
So yeah, yes, we use both collection codes and we use shelving locations. So
could you
which
move
and then but
something?
then like in Aspen, you know, especially since you can change the display for a collection code, it would be much easier to just use that instead of adding, you know, having the shelving location as well. It seems like it'd be kind of redundant, but maybe not. Again, we're kind of just
Thank you.
kicking things around and trying to assess, you know, what the ramifications are for different decisions
Okay.
before we make the decisions.
Here's an idea that probably won't work. These are the display ones are books you can check out, right? People are encouraged to check them out.
Yes.
Not behind glass saying this is what we have.
No,
Okay.
not special collections. It'd be like, you know, cool summer reads or whatever.
Okay. How about making a patron called On Display or Display Summer 2021? Check all those out, all the books and put them on display. Then if someone wants a book that's on display, they'll say, you know, this book is checked out to display. Do you want to check it out to this person?
Right. Yeah. Just so they would just check it in and then check it out to the person.
Right.
There.
And then you would also have a gauge of how many people checked out books on this, or how many books were checked out that had been on display.
Yeah, it's a good idea. The only issue with that is we use a lot of self-checkout. So people would have to, you know, I don't know if they would be able to check it in there by themselves. They'd have to take it to the desk and.
Yeah. I can't remember
we've
what I get.
been able to control. I mean, I'd have to look. I don't remember, but our damaged status doesn't prevent things from being checked out or checked
nice.
in, and that's one reason why I like the on exhibit status too, because it also, if it's coming back in before shelving, it's like, oh, we could put this back on exhibit.
Okay. What happens when someone tries to check out, you self-checkout to check out a book that's already checked out?
They get a message. It says, so like, say if it's on hold for another person, it's you'll get a message that says this title's on hold for another patron. Please, you know, see the desk or something like that.
Okay, but how about if it's just checked out to someone, maybe they returned it, put it on the shelf, never got checked in?
I haven't encountered that myself, and I don't know, because it's all of our self-checkouts through TechLogic. It's not through Koha. So I don't know, and I'm not really involved in making those two talk to each other. I would assume it would say, you know, this item is checked out to another patron. Please see, you know, help desk or something. That's my guess.
I think it does something like that, because if it's through TechLogic, you're probably using a SIP connection. I think it does throw a SIP error.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. There's some area where you know, our systems people have been able to create the message that it displays. So it's, yeah.
Please take a look at the bug, everyone, that Jason put in the chat. It's for an on-display module.
Oh yes, this is tangentially related, but so Ed repurposed the course resource module to handle display items. The idea here is just to duplicate that into its own section, and that's a project that we're looking at taking on soon, is repurposing the course resource for displays, because it allows you to temporarily take it out of its current shelf location and put it into like a display location. And it makes it easy for CERC staff to manage that without having to get into the cataloging side of things.
When Ed did that talk about how to do this, I was excited about the idea. And then like a week after that conference, we had an academic library that joined that wanted to use the course reserves module, which kind of killed it for us. That's why I think that having a separate module for displays would be useful, because if you do have a situation where somebody wants to use the course reserves, God forbid, as an actual course reserves module, you can have the displays module be something separate. So we handle displays by, I have 3 libraries that do displays, and like I said, we use shelving location to differentiate adult, young adult, and children's. And so for the 3 libraries that do use that for displays, I have like Leavenworth display adult, Leavenworth display young adult, and Leavenworth display children that they can use as a temporary location that still has adult, young adult, and children's in it, so that when I capture that data, because that's primarily what we're using location for, is to capture the data about, you know, what kind of item is this for the end of the year IMLS and state of Kansas report. So
Is there a reason that the course reserves couldn't be used for both? You could just create a course that says display June 2021.
The way that Ed described it and the way that Ed arranged it, he used a bunch of jQuery to change the headings and all of that. So it probably could be used, but it's in the OPAC, it's going to say this thing is on reserve, unless you change the way that it displays in the OPAC. So, and when patrons see that at a public library, they're going to go, what the hell does that mean? And then they're just going to ignore it. So.
So much for another idea.
No, I could see that working though. You could have the modifications made for public libraries where it's using the display terminology, but then if they're logged in as the college library, they're seeing the course reserves terminology. It just would be a little clunky, and having a separate module would definitely be better.
And could you just duplicate the Ed's course reserve?
I think that's kind of that's what Christopher suggested, was just
Okay.
duplicate the module and then you have a second
And change
place to
field.
relabel all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that would have to be done in the base code. Can't do that with jQuery.
Heather's idea of putting things in a public list, we do that a lot too. The thing that the location of Leavenworth adult display gets us though is it gets us statistics on how many people are borrowing things from the display. That's harder to capture with the
Yeah,
just
that's
using a
true.
public list.
Here's a question regarding public lists, like in Aspen, you mean?
We're not using Aspen. We're just using the public lists in Koha.
Oh, okay. No, that's cool. All right, never mind.
Yeah, Aspen is another thing I really need to learn more about. Is that could that come under cataloging or be another SIG?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, we just moved to Aspen in May, so we're still learning it. But I mean, it's like Koha. I mean, there are different aspects that would fall under all the existing SIGs, I think.
And Heather, who seems to have frozen and dropped off, says everything has to do with cataloging.
Ultimately true.
So Jason, I think you're going to give a presentation on Aspen in a few months.
Well, we'll see. I guess it depends on the topic. It's been an interesting transition. It's been good. I mean, it hasn't really changed cataloging workflow at all. If anything, it's kind of just, I don't know, it's opened up more possibilities for spotlighting our collections to our users. You know, they've got, you know, a lot of like great public, like kind of public lists features, and then like all the different ways you can present, you know, and you can present, you know, search results. You know, you can, you know, change the way information displays. It's, you know, so there are lots of possibilities. We're just barely scratching the surface, I think. But yeah, maybe.
Same
there'll be
here
a
with koha.
presentation.
It does a lot more than I can do with it. I just
Are
know what I
you-
know.
Is
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Aspen Discovery for OPAC. Yeah.
Yeah, we use that as well. It's pretty awesome. I gotta help set it up. And
Yeah, likewise.
it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And our libraries love it because we can customize it to the individual library. And like we have a rotating collection, so we can customize that rotating collection that's specific to that library. And so every time it renews, that list updates. But then we also have lists that like new fiction books or new to the library fiction books. Those lists are for all of the books that have been added to the system, not just that library. And so it's a lot of fun. It's very customizable, and it's kind of easy to learn to a point.
That was
Right,
my
right.
next question. Learning curve?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I don't have a lot of personal experiences to compare it to, but I mean, it's there's a lot that you can do with it, and it's relatively intuitive, a lot of it. So it's good.
Going to have a meeting in about 10 minutes where my boss is going to ask me about it.
About Aspen?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Well, you're all ready. Just say, yeah, I've heard it's pretty intuitive.
Yes.
I've heard it's really good for customizing for your user experience.
Let me write that down. Fortunately, she doesn't expect me to actually know it quite yet. I've got a great boss. Let me say that for the record.
Opportunity to impress.
Like Heather's coming back. I can fill time here. One thing that we talked about, I think at the consortia SIG, was using putting your own Z target into the Z39 search for duplication purposes to avoid dupes and stuff. So I've been working on that a little bit, so I can share what I've done there. So I added ourselves, so we're seek and find as a Z target. And whenever you do that, it doesn't actually pull the record back. It just gives you a bunch of errors. So if I search for a record that we have, it's giving me a bunch of errors. I hit all those and put a message up here instead that says, please recheck the catalog. And it turns the screen red so that they know that they probably just missed it. And then if I search for something that's not in our catalog, it's business as usual. So it's just white and they can go through and pick their stuff. So hoping that prevents some duplication in our catalog.
Is that book fiction or nonfiction?
Zombie Hamster is very non-fictional. It's a no.
So I figured the zombie apocalypse was going to be more threatening.
Well, you remember the
ramping up.
rabbit.
Practical question. I would like to have all the links from the chat, and every time I crash it, dump the old ones. Is that kept somewhere I can recover it?
I was just messaging Jason about that, and then luckily he's saving our bacon. Usually at the end of a meeting, I grab and copy and capture all the everyone chat, and then Jason delightfully adds it to the video description on YouTube in the recording, and luckily he's going to do that for us again this meeting.
Yeah, and since we recorded the cloud, we get a secondary backup in our Zoom account too. So it's
Oh.
there even if I forget.
Fantastic.
And I usually save after a really interesting link. So sometimes I have the entire chat.
Cured pork belly recovery system. Excellent.
And melentm mentioned that this was her first meeting. I'm so glad she joined us, or he, sorry.
They.
They, indeed. Well, we have a couple more minutes if anybody else has anything else.
Not much to do with cataloging, but a few days ago I was adding titles to a list so I could delete them. And I had added one title and the whole thing kind of melted down, sort of like your laptop, but a lot of 500 error messages, and then Koha just completely stopped working. You wouldn't have that happen. I went in and updated the system. I checked the, sometimes when the disk space fills up with logs, it just stops working. That wasn't the case.
That might be a question for the sysadmin group.
Yeah. I can't replicate it, fortunately.
That was going to be my question. Can you make it happen again?
When I went back and redid the entire cart, actually it's a cart, not a list. No, carts disappear when you reboot the system.
Well, if that's it for the cataloging stuff, I'll go ahead and stop the record. I don't know if I even have the control to do that right now.
Oh no, I didn't make you co-host again, but I will stop it right
Yeah.
now.
Thank you, Jason.